Welcome to Season 3 of This Is How My Brain Works, the podcast about living, thriving, and laughing through the ups and downs of neurodiversity. We explore the real stories, the real struggles, and the real strengths that come with thinking differently. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of This Is How My Brain Works. I am Michael Collins, joined by Krista Gano, Sarah Hines, and Jason Rudofsky. We are This Is How My Brain Works, a group of GenXers finding out about our... Actually, the intro already said all that. So we'll just move on.
Moving right along, America.
Today, we are
And
going
others.
to...
In Ireland.
We're going to discuss something big. Big feelings. So ADHD often involves intense emotions, big feelings, and difficulty regulating them, a state called emotional dysregulation, where feelings like frustration, anger, anxiety, or even joy hit hard and fast, leading to overwhelm outbursts or quick mood shifts, and are often tied to brain challenges like impaired executive function and low dopamine, with rejection sensitivity dysphoria being a key related issue. Doesn't that sound like something fun to discuss now?
That's just a grab bag of fun.
That's a grab bag of fun. Don't you want to hang out with us?
Makes me want to hide.
It makes people want to hang out with us, I think. But weirdly, just to put ADHDers, I think, are pretty fun to be around because we can, because of our emotionality and oh my gosh, that's awesome, let's try this or let's do that. Yeah, it can be, the big feelings can be just as maybe positive as they are negative. It's just quick to emote.
Life of the party.
Yeah, so I think it really is, when we talk about big feelings, I think it's not always like a negative thing like that little intro piece I just said. It can kind of go both ways. But I definitely think that my take is, as ADHDers, we need to be aware of ourselves in that, with that, as far as having the big feelings. But
I have such a complex relationship with this idea, and I think
yeah.
it's partially because, I think many of us are told, "Oh, you're so much. Gosh, you're so much." Or I get told a lot, "Why are you so mad?" And I'm like, I do not feel mad at all. I feel direct. I feel like I'm on the edge of clarity, but I do not feel mad. And so what's so interesting to me is that disconnect between what others are experiencing of me and what I'm feeling on my inside. And it's hard to, but I think a lot of that, it comes from, I'm going to start with, I feel like a lot of us have had those conversations at some point where someone said, "You're so much, you're too much. Can't you just calm down? Or can't you just, why are you so this or that or whatever?" And as I've gotten older, I feel like now I'm in a place where sometimes I feel like the energy of my emotions is stuck in my body, because I have spent years masking so that no one else feels uncomfortable. And that was the third part, as we were talking about this before, that was the third part of this conversation is who are we masking for? We're masking for others to not feel a certain way around us, because it doesn't make us feel great always to mask. It makes us exhausted. I mean, there's a lot of stuff so that comes with that masking piece. And so I ran across this woman recently. I think she wrote a book, and I can't remember what the name is, but she was sort of I love my big emotions. I love them. That means I'm feeling. I get to feel everything. And why do I? If I'm mad, I'm mad. And if you can't handle it, that's your issue. It's not mine. But I mean, it was there was something so, I don't know if I'm brave enough to be that way, but there was something so freeing. And by the way, she was in her 70s, and maybe you get your right to really put down your mask at that point. But what the thing I can tell you is, when I've been told I'm being too big, or too much or too, there's a disconnect with what I feel in my body and how I'm being experienced by others.
Why do you think I love improv so much?
Say more.
You can't be judged you can't be judged by your emotional dysregulation. Sometimes you can go as high as you want. You can get as crazy as you want. You can let that out. There's no judgment. You never feel judged. We often judge ourselves a lot for having, how did I get so mad? There was no regulation. I went right to 60, right to the very top and just lost it. I don't know how to do that.
Well, if I can add, Rudy, if I can add to that with that improv, like you're saying, every choice you make, every emotional choice you make is valid, is part of the scene. And, the rule of improv that has become very popular with Tina Fey, the yes and. So not only can you express yourself,
Tina, but don't just give that to Tina Fey.
Yeah, I was about to be like, I don't know about that.
She kind of
I love her, but come on now.
Well, she popularized.
Yes, and many others.
Right. Well, of course. She learned it.
All the improv nerds have just shown up.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, isn't her book called Yes and?
Maybe, but I'm just saying, Second City, that the Groundlings would like to stand up and say that Tina Fey's not the first person.
Okay, so I went through the Second City Training Center. Krista was the executive director of the Groundlings for a while, so I think there's some hidden little
name
triggers
dropping.
going on here.
Michael Go.
We're having an
I think it was
improv off.
Will Ferrell who, someone from the
Even
Groundlings.
before Will. Let's go back even further.
Well, Viola Spolin in Chicago. So yeah. But anyway,
okay, nerds.
What's your
Nobody
point?
cares.
Fair enough. My point was
said it nicer.
That so we're afraid of expressing these big emotions because of how people will receive them, or maybe reject us or not validate our feelings. In improv, you have to validate whatever your scene partner is doing. So that's the yes and. So it's if you're coming at me in a big way, then I have to yes and that and accept you as that and build.
Right. You're not going to be judged or rejected or.
Right. In fact, rejecting that, whatever you put out, rejecting that, the scene goes down.
Dies.
The scene loses its energy. So that's why improv is, I think, a fascinating thing for a lot of people when they start experiencing it's not just about being funny or broad characters. It really is this kind of validating experience because you can show up in this way and it can be a big way and that gets accepted and validated. And that's just an interesting thing to kind of experience and feel.
And you learn to accept that for yourself. It's okay to say these things, to do these things. It's okay to just not have to think, which we do all the time, overthink, and to just react and let loose and play.
It's like anti-cancel.
Sorry.
It's like anti-cancel culture. But anyway, go on, Krista.
I was going to say that's why, I think dramatic improv can be some of the. It's not, you don't see it very often, but it can be really beautifully done as well because it does the same type of thing you're talking about, but it doesn't have to. It's not that improv has to be funny because I'm not saying that, but you're sort of taking off the expectation of comedy and dramatic improv, but you're letting people still play in the same waters, which I think is really interesting. And not to get off on an improv thing, but I do think it's also fascinating. And this is something that was really pioneered in Chicago, was that how successful improv is with people with Alzheimer's and dementia, because they're able to, they don't have to keep up, they did a whole study around it with loved ones going into, facilities where their loved ones were, and they would do improv together. So a mother and a daughter doing improv, like but one of the things they found out is like no one was looking at that person saying, do you remember? What do you remember? So all of the pressure was gone, and they were able just to live in their emotions and emote and laugh and have fun. And so I think there is something very primal in us, or very foundational in us, that wants to be seen for who we are without all of the nonsense.
Good call. Yeah.
What do you mean
And
nonsense?
Sarah, what
kind of nonsense are you talking? We got a lot of
just the
nonsense.
nonsense of the world, just the or that you got to remember, or you got to do this, or you've got to be appropriate, or you've got to be this, or you've got to do that.
The shoulds.
All the shoulds. That's right. All the without
Sarah, what do you have opening comments wise on the
Oh
big
boy,
feels?
opening comments. I feel like we're getting towards the end, y'all. This is a hot topic. No copyright infringement intended, y'all. Sorry. I agree with everything, and then I'm coming from a completely different take, which is that until we can understand and observe, and let me put this in I statements because God, I don't want to be annoying. Until I could stop and observe my feelings back to kind of their origin, I struggled to use ordinary people tools to manage them. So, for example, I went to the best elementary school, I might have bragged about it before, in the entire world, Jefferson Elementary in San Francisco, California. Shout out. But let's say I had that big joy feeling, I could get up and go do something and move that joy through my body, to Krista's point, that these feelings live in our bodies. And I especially feel like I have to get them out. And so joy, but more specifically, what came to mind, Michael, with this whole topic was anger. And so I have been someone that demonstrates what appears to typical people to just be straight up anger. And I may have already talked to you guys about this. I feel like I have, but it bears repeating because it's been so helpful for me as someone with ADHD. So when I observe my feelings, recognizing the anger back to its origin, typically of hurt, sit with it, let it pass over me. The next time I feel angry, I know, wait a minute, counting to 10 doesn't work for me. So what's the origin of that anger? Sometimes it's any number of things, but as a kid, it was often overstimulation. So the tag on my shirt was rubbing the back of my neck. I was hungry because it was almost lunchtime. The person in front of me was kicking their chair during a test, and I suddenly hauled off and whacked him with my pencil, or something, like that. And so
I can see myself in that exact same scenario.
Yeah, and I'm like losing and probably
or someone's clicking a pin just repeatedly over and over.
Whatever it was, the constellation of overstimulated things. So then someone telling me just count to 10, or trying to remember that in that moment of overstimulation is never going to work. But if I can observe myself, oh my MOG, whatever, the OMG, that pen clicking is bothering me. So I notice it. Okay. And then I stop, and then I uncurl and see that I'm also hungry. And then I see that and then I come up with a different solution, which now as an adult, I have the autonomy to be like, F this test, I'm gonna go get me a little snacky poo. But, and I actually, like I said, went to a great enough school that if that had been the case, I know I could have gone and gotten a snack to meet that need. So like that happened less the more that I learned how to get those needs met by 4th and 5th grade. But that's what I have to say about big feelings. Like it's really about, for me, figuring out where it's coming from and scratching the itch.
See, it's so interesting, Sarah, because I think the sensory piece of that puzzle, as this is going to sound dumb, like I'm the dumbest person on the planet, but the sensory piece of the puzzle, I did not really realize until after we did this group how much that was that
Driving the
that
ship.
was driving some of my like irritable moments. And like, for example, yesterday, or no, the day before, I was about to go teach. I've got to leave at 5 o'clock to teach this acting class I teach sometimes, and my kid had gotten home late, and he had something happen that was very dramatic, and so he was sort of yelling in my direction, not at me but about the story, and I'm gathering my things and I'm trying to get out the door, and I had that moment where I really had to look around and go like, listen, I can't, I am about to teach a class I'm already not prepared for because everybody has been doing this to me all day long. And like I had to, and then I took a breath and I was like, I would love to talk to you about your stuff. I just need to talk to you about it when I'm in the car, like driving, and you can call me, but I can't, because I realized I wasn't irritated at him. I wasn't, it was all this just
It's
pressure.
almost like the sensory input overload takes our executive function offline.
Yes. Yes.
Am I stating like what all the researchers have said forever?
Probably.
And I sound like some Dunning-Kruger over here.
But it's so crazy to not have really completely put that together until you're in your 50s.
No, I mean, if you think about like
embarrassing.
when you get sick, it's not just because of one thing, There's these thresholds, and it's usually a combination of things. So the sensory thing, you add in the pressure of a test, and you add in the temperature of the room, and then you add in the fact that you're hungry. Now you're bumping up against, the dysregulation threshold, right? It's not just one of those things, because we can usually kind of deal, with one of them. And so I think it is good to factor in there's multiple things, and that can make it more complicated to maybe assess in the moment. But I think it all contributes to it.
Right, but I think I agree with you. And even looking back on raising my oldest, who has sensory integration disorder and autism, the world, I guess what I'm surprised about is that the world still comes at you with those things like count to 10 and take deep breaths, or do this or do that. And because that's what we tried to use with Cade, and they were not helpful or useful, and none of it worked. And
did we say this last time? I feel like we did, where it doesn't work for anybody. And I know that I keep bringing this up, gentle listeners, but
no, you just said it.
I can't remember. I don't know. There has been a time, and I've lost it. I mean, when I get excited, to a negative point, when I get frustrated, mad, I can go to a level that's embarrassing, shameful, it's bad. But never has my brain been able to tell me to count to 10 in those moments. There's no way.
I'll tell you.
There's no way it bypasses any block, any roadblock. It'll bypass it. It goes right to the top. There is don't tell me to count to 10. But listen, I can tell people, take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath, count to 10. Let's take a deep breath. I can say it to people, but my body, my brain has never, ever allowed me. Maybe once, but whatever the factors were, but I just don't have the ability.
And I'll tell you why, Jen.
I don't have the patience to count to 10. Maybe to 7.
If someone said,
that's too much counting.
We're going to go in a dark room. We're going to have it be a cooler temperature. We're going to take away all of the rest of the stimulus. We're going to take some deep breaths like that, because what you're doing is you're not adding another, because think about it. Count to 10 is another stimulus. Now I've got to still ignore all of this or other and figure out the numbers and count and breathe. And now people are watching me. So now I've got to count and breathe in front of them because they're looking for a result. And now and here we go.
And still the pen is clicking.
And still the pen is clicking. But I will say there's one thing that does help me. I don't know if it would have helped me as a child, but it does help me sometimes, which is, will this matter tomorrow? Will this matter in 5 days? Will this matter in 5 years? And there's a huge swath of things that might be dysregulating that the answer to that is no.
Well, I'm wondering, but see, that's a rational mindset exercise, right? If you're dysregulated, you can no longer think rationally. it's
There you
almost
go.
like this
You're in your
abrupt thing.
lizard.
Like if my kid's losing it, when my kids would lose it, I would pick them up and take them outside. Just some radical change of environment or shift in energy. And so what if you
And
just
ladies
yell?
and gentlemen, we'll find out in 25 years how effective that was.
Yeah, it worked at them in the moment,
It
so
works in the moment.
I'll
I'm
pay for their
joking. It
therapy,
sounds like a good idea.
pay for their therapy later. But what if you just yelled like time out or something, or just like, they're because there has to,
Mhm.
the only way to get regulated if you're dysregulated is you gotta take the time out and that you're let everything calm down again. So to your point, Rudy, I'm not in the right frame of mind to count to fucking 10,
No, I need a referee
you
to
know?
step in and be like, up, like someone guide me, right? Like, okay, stop. Right. Like time out, count to 10. Like that's a penalty. Oh, right. And at some point it's going to stick. But if someone's not on my shoulder telling me that, my brain doesn't tell me to do that.
So,
Well,
so
yeah.
years ago, we took the kids to Universal, and uh, it was, the Harry Potter big thing where you went and you bought your wand, and then you could go around the park and point at things, and magic things happened. And here I am with an with a kid who's autistic, and I mean, talk about the sensory input of an amusement park. And I will tell you, so we walk in to and it looks just like the store in Harry Potter. So it's like all of the wands on the wall, top to bottom, just like huge rooms, high ceilings, a whole bit. People just like in there pointing one and my kid gets this look in his face. And I will tell you, out of everything, this is probably Universal should send us free tickets for this. There was one person who noticed his face, and they came over and they grabbed us and they said, "Would you love a private room to choose your wand?" And they just know you could tell he was like right on the edge of meltdown. And this was like this incredible experience where it's like, "You're going to get your wand, darn it. We're going to go do the fun things," and they took us back into a private room and brought the wands out to choose the wand. And we never had to say or ask or do anything. And it was really, it made like watching Cade and Cash, sorry, both of my kids, just sort of like, it changed the entire day.
If they had
Wow.
someone like that at like
That's
the
amazing.
PGA Golf Superstore, I'd be so thankful. Like, do you want to look at these putters in a private room? Yes, please.
Yes.
There's too many dumb people around me. They don't even know how to
So-
use a putter. Could I please go to the private room? Love it.
But that
awesome.
goes to what we were saying. It was like what needed to happen was not telling any of the kids to do something. It was removing the external stimulus.
Well,
that
whoever
was,
recognized that is brilliant.
I know.
So the trick is also to recognize it for yourself. So like I find if I get to a point of discomfort, and maybe if, as an alcoholic or an addict, it's the feeling of I want to drink, I want to do the thing. If you have that thought in the midst of something, it's a take a time out and breathe or whatever, change of scenery, go have a private room to buy your wand.
But I think that's why remote working has worked so well for me, Sarah, that I didn't know because we never had it before COVID, really, is because when I'm feeling dysregulated, I can go sit someplace. Jason, are you talking and you're on mute?
He's messing with us. Oh no, he is on mute. He's trying.
was
He's on mute.
That
And
wasn't a
I'm like, "Are you
joke. That
talking
was
the
just
whole
being
time?"
old. Yes.
Like I was like, I feel like we're missing
yes, I'm
something
talking
really
to my
important.
lovely wife.
Oh, okay.
Just briefly.
Yeah.
We
No,
love
that's
her
fine.
too. That's
love
not
her
fair.
too.
Hi.
Please. Hi. But I do think that is my nervous system in general has like everything has been more fortified by me not having to be managing it externally all day long.
Because it's exhausting. I mean,
Yeah.
you can do it for a while, right? And then your capacity, to use Krista's
Word of the year.
2026,
My word of the year.
the capacity starts diminishing,
1,
and then
2, 3,
so
4,
My son
God,
this morning was
sick.
he was looking for a shirt that he wanted to wear that was still in the
10.
laundry, and he took it out of the and Ginger's like, "Yeah, I think it might still be in the laundry." And he took it out and he starts putting it on and it's dirty. And Ginger's like, "You can't wear that. It's filthy." Well, whose fault is that? In other words, like, whose fault is it that my laundry's not done? And that just kind of set me off. I'm like, "All right, bud, you're 12 years old. You get to do your own laundry now.
Yeah, that's
We're,
death. Most death.
we're gonna teach you how to do your laundry. So this is never gonna be anybody's fault but your own from now on." And that kind of set me off a little bit this morning. I was like, "You little," and then we make these little one-eyed. They're called one-eyed sailors, where you cut out the middle of the bread and then you crack the egg in the hole, and it's like, or egg in the hole, one-eyed sailor,
Egg in the basket.
egg in the basket. So, and he is like, can someone cut this up for me? And I'm like, "You got it, bud. You can cut it up." And so he starts kind of doing this thing, showing me like, "I can't cut it up. Someone has to," and I'm
Oh
just like,
yeah, yeah.
"Keep
Yeah.
it together, keep it together, keep it together." So I came around and I kind of like you just put your fork in and then I put it down. I was like, "But I am not cutting this up for you, because the last time I cut it up for you, I told you this is the last time I'm cutting this up for you. So go." And
I
he's
have a
completely,
question. Inside of your body, was there any moment where you just wanted to take one edge of the table and just,
yeah.
just
I wanted
like
to
throw it
do
up into the air?
I wanted to do the Homer Simpson. No. So he was like doing it again and kind of looking at me, and his knife was facing the wrong way, and I'm like, "What is happening? Like, why are you refusing? This is like," and I was like, "Do not," because Ginger, I was like, "Do not cut this up for him. I guess you're not eating breakfast today."
Or you got to pick it up with your hands.
I was so pissed because, and it was like the laundry thing and then this cutting thing, and I'm like, you're pushing some boundaries, and this is not going to happen. You're and I was completely irritated. I even said that I was irritated. I was like, because you can't, you're not even trying to do this. So I guess you're just not having breakfast today. And then I focused on getting Margot out the door, and Gus did not, he left without having breakfast. So like, and then Ginger dropped him off and came back, and she was like, "Well," I go, "How was Gus in the car ride?" She goes, "Well, he was a little quiet." And I was like, I wonder what he was reflecting on. If he was like, "My dad is a total asshole," or "I guess I pushed this one a little too far," or "There's a time and a place to try to be funny about something." I don't really know, but that was an example of this morning, me getting very emotional about something, but it meant more than just that instance of cutting or the laundry. It was like it represented something bigger, and I felt like it was a direct disrespect to me, and
There
and
was something I
I
read a long time ago that
triggered.
men feel love through the lens of respect. So women feel love differently than men, but for men, it's like, if you like, especially for fathers and sons, I think it's this idea of like, if I'm not respected or we don't respect each other, then we don't feel love. And I mean, I don't know how true it is. I'm not a man, but I read it somewhere, and it's interesting because I have some of those same conversations with Greg, and especially with my oldest, because my oldest is at that, I don't know. It's interesting because, again, autism, and I don't think they feel on the inside. It's like the disconnect I was talking about. They don't think they feel on the inside like they're coming off the way they're coming off. And Greg has the ADHD rejection sensitivity dysphoria, like to a 10. And, and so all it takes is like, knock, knock, knock. "Hey, bud, what?" And then Greg's done. Greg is like, "Never mind." And then we're in a feud because, and I've got to sort of do this whole, "Can you say what gentler?" And maybe
I don't like your tone.
like it's just this, but it is this, and then we're bouncing, right? We're bouncing off of the, "Well, I don't feel that way. I don't know why you always think I'm mad," with the tone. And then the, "Well, you just don't," and then we're sort of bouncing. And
Mm.
yeah, the neurodivergent household that I have is spicy
Well, so big emotions, right? It's
sometimes.
emotional.
Yeah.
We've even talked about that with our kids, because when there is big feelings and upset and things happen and then we come together to repair, um, I do say like, we have an emotional family, this is just part of who we are. And I think, as long as you do that repair, so they know that like, listen, this was happening for me. This was my experience and this was happening for me. So they don't think that like, oh, this is all my fault and I'm the one to blame and the shame thing. You can still, in that repair, you're supposed to take some accountability for your side of things.
I have a win actually that I would love to share on that. Because we've always done that, Michael, same thing. Like, and we sort of modeled to the kids. I've talked about this before about how to make a good apology. And Cash has a friend who he's known since middle school who he found out was talking behind his back. And to the point of knocking him out of an opportunity because they went and talked to this team and said, you don't want Cash to be a part of your team, whatever. So Cash didn't sit on that. He said, I got to talk to you privately and I want to talk it through, which I thought was awesome and really adult. And then when he heard what they had to say, said, like, went and thought about it and called back and said, I'd like to apologize for my piece of that. And I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you how I've changed and how that's not going to happen again. And I was just sort of like, dang, all right. That parenting worked. And I just thought it was so,
That's more adult than most adults
right? That's
out in
more
the
adult
world.
than me at times. I
Yeah.
mean, I was like, wow, kid. Like, did not he and just sort of said and told this person, listen, if you have a problem with me, talk to me about it. But when you change my opportunities without, and I get no say in it, it's not okay.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, good going, kid.
That's great.
Yeah. So
Self-advocate.
it is possible to, but also learned that things got heated in person, and so they ended up finishing the fight or the disagreement, or when the first one-on-one was a little heated on both of their in person, and then they shifted to text and then finally phone, and there was something about being able to calm down and do that. They were both able to work it out and be honest with one another. So it was a evening of discussion, but still, I thought, knew when he was dysregulated, took a time out, the whole thing.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
pretty awesome.
Love it.
Hey,
They do
Michael,
learn. They do
I
learn,
have a
Michael.
question about Gus. He's little. He's only 12.
Yeah.
How is his handwriting?
It's pretty good.
So then, but I was going to say with respect to the you may be getting a reaction because he's scared he doesn't have the skills needed to do the job, or he doesn't have the ability to do the job. So fine motor skills are pretty like I remember knife skills actually is kind of a hard thing.
Well, that's what's funny. That was one of my
Anyway,
when I was like, you love knives. What is your deal? Because he likes to sharpen knives and he likes to do like work with the X-Acto knife, and he was just being a punk, and I was just like, he was testing me and I was not having it. Sometimes I'll try to redirect in a more comic kind of way.
Oh, he
But
knows how to carve with a knife. Trust me. Have you seen the statue outside? That old tree that they cut down in the neighborhood that he like carved into like an eagle.
oh yeah,
Like, can you imagine if that's like
he's got a
if he had those kind of skills, but then at home he was like this. I don't know how to cut.
Yeah.
No, what is that word called? Weaponized
incompetence.
incompetence. This idea that, sometimes we act like we don't. I mean, it's interesting because I think people use it a lot to describe men. But I would say that there's a lot of women who use weaponized incompetence too.
That's
Change a
interesting.
tire
I've never
much?
heard that term.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like my dad talked about the change of the tire. I couldn't get in my car when I was 16 till I could prove to him I could change my own oil and change my tire. Now I want to also mention that
That's
those
a
were the
Gen X reference right there of the day. Every one of us, raise your hand. Whose parents made you do that?
This segment sponsored by castor oil.
And we can
I
all
will.
drive stick.
and I used to, yes, my first car was stick. And I actually cried when I got a car and there were just
Moved
like
to
no more
automatic.
stick options anymore, really. It was so hard at some point. It wasn't until the kids were babies, but at some point it became really difficult to find a stick and you ended up with that dumb automatic, which I've had today.
I went out, Justin Frank's, Justin Frank's a friend of ours. He has a used car dealership, great cars. And I gotten a lot of cars from him. But he's like, oh, I got this great VW. It's a 6-speed, right? Well, I wound up getting it, but when I first took it out, I was like, I forgot how I used to do with the coffee and the thing, and I could shift and all the things. And it was like,
The
all of a sudden,
blinkers
it was like,
going.
this is too much. I don't know how to I don't know how to. I wound up getting the car. It was amazing. But
my gosh,
there was
Mike,
a
I didn't-
stretch.
Yeah.
Remember how you could do anything? You could
Yes,
still
I could
shift.
put on
You
I could do mascara and like eat stick. There was a guy that there was an I had
Time
an
out.
Uber.
Time out. I want to put this whole conversation of multitasking in a car, moving death machine, in direct contrast with our earlier discussions of where I got so overstimulated.
Oh
by a
yeah,
clicking
whatever.
pen.
Okay, Sarah. But Jason, I was in
We're in
Southern
control.
California and I had an Uber and he had a stick. This was a couple months ago. And I was like, "Where did you get?" And it was a new car. And he was like, I was like, "Where did you get it?" He said, "Oh, they're bringing them back now because they're so much harder to steal." And I was like,
That's
maybe my
funny.
next car I can go back to a stick.
So
That is
fun.
wild.
So fun. The stick
know.
is so fun.
Speaking of,
All right.
right before we
Lead us
started
out,
recording. Well,
Oh, did we
I
end?
promise 2 seconds. It's not a new topic. I won't
Oh,
do it.
come on. Here's Sarah. She's about to open up the can of worms.
No, I swear to God, I'm not. I swear to God, I'm not. I swear to God. So just before we started recording, I had to move my 2003 Honda Element, which is a 5-speed manual, out from in front of my house because the whole street's blocked off for Saturday, which makes me think maybe there's going to be a parade on my street. Hope for me,
Oh.
gentle
For
listeners,
tomorrow?
ladies and gentlemen. I don't know.
hope there
Your
is
high's
not.
going to be 15 degrees. That's going to, whew.
Parade,
I can
parade,
watch from my
parade.
window.
Yeah.
Anyway, take
Well,
us out, Michael.
this was the Big Feeling episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'd love it. We'd love to hear your comments and create some sort of discourse, if you will, on your experiences with big feelings. For Krista Gano, Jason Rudofsky, and Sarah Hines, I'm Michael Collins. Thank you so much for tuning in. We know you have a lot of podcasts to listen to, but you chose to listen to this one, and we thank you for that.
And subscribe, and follow.
Take care. We'll see you on the next one.
If you like this episode of This Is How My Brain Works, please like, subscribe, and share. This podcast is the creative work of This Is How My Brain Works. It is not authorized for use in training, development, or refinement of artificial intelligence or machine learning systems. Any attempt to copy, analyze, or repurpose this audio for AI training is explicitly prohibited.